Hello my loves, it is time to update my eyeshadow palette testing series. It's today, I'm doing it. It's Natasha Denona. So I have 5 palettes. I've got the bronze palette. I have the I Need a Nude palette. I've got the Glam face palette. I have the mini gold palette, baby gold palette, sorry, and the mini love palette. Let's start with the little ones because they're going to be super quick. So this one, the baby gold palette, I got this in the 2022 Beautylish Lucky Bag. Look, I feel like this is a little color story that, you know, it's cute. It's compact. Oh, what's this crap? Oh God, it's a Marc Jacobs fine liner too. It's going to take 23 years to get it off. So great little like compact palette. Love that. Great, great, great. What I don't like about it is actually, I'm just going to say it's the colors. 2 of the 3 colors I just don't really care for, and it's these 2. So this darker one, I've spoke about this in recent videos. I just don't feel like they're super complementary to my eyes. I have quite small, deep set eyes, and dark colors like that are basically the equivalent of black on me, and it makes like it really recedes my eyes. If I'm picking up this little palette, I'm mostly just going to want to use this color and this color, but the gold, I don't really care for it, to be perfectly honest. And realistically, what I want, I just want this. That's it. That's all I want to use. That beautiful, like, sort of cool toned camelish color. So I'm going to get rid of this because I just don't see myself really reaching for it. If I'm going to reach for this, I'm going to actually go for this most likely. Moving on to the mini love palette. Madeline actually gave me this. When she purchased it and it arrived, one of the shades was broken. This one, she repressed it. I'm not sure where she got it from, but the company replaced it, and she was like, do you want it? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I'll take it, thank you very much. So this is a beautiful little palette. I will say that the dark purple in here definitely borders on that realm of too dark for me, but it can be used as a liner. And since the rest of this palette is one that I would reach for to like create a look, I feel like it's reasonable enough to have that darker shade in there. So there it is as a whole. It's like, it's not a super diverse palette, obviously. It is very like romantic, pinky purpley mauve themed palette. You've got a really pretty multi-chrome, which I enjoy. This beautiful like mauvey kind of color is perfect. I just put that like in the outer corner and like soften it up in the crease. Gorgeous. This one can definitely use as a liner, tiny little bit on the outer corner of my lower lashes. Just helps to offer a little bit of definition without having to put like mascara on my lower lashes. And then if I want to like brighten things up, I've got this highlighting shade. And if I want something that's just simple, I've got a bit more of like a kind of candy pinky shade. But really like my love lies here and with a little pop of this on the inner corner. This one I'm going to hold on to. It's not one that I would use on a very regular basis, but if I'm going for a little bit of like a multi-chrome pinky look, I'm happy to grab that. And I actually don't mind, like, I mean, I love that the pans are small. That is totally my jam. And although I do feel that for the most part, this is a bit one note. If I am looking for that one note look, then I just grab this palette and I don't have to think about it. Moving on to the Glam face palette. This is my favorite of all of the palettes. I love this so much. Now the face shades, I didn't use them. I'll swatch them for you just in case you're like, I'm curious, I want to see it all swatched together. I didn't use them for the purpose of like testing in this video because Like, you know, I don't do my makeup that often, and I'm trying to focus on my Project Pan stuff. That blush is looking a bit rough, I have to admit. It's kind of like a cream to powder formula, and it is getting a little, it's getting a little old, but that's fine. I don't have to use it. What I truly, truly adore from this palette and what makes it so perfect for me are the eyeshadows. It's just like, this is perfection. I love it so much. These sort of light sparkly shades with light and mid-toned mattes is exactly what I need in an eyeshadow palette. And even the darkest shade is like the perfect depth for my like eye structure and what I look for in an eye look. It looks totally bland and boring. I appreciate that, but the formula of these is stunning. These two like shimmery shades are so sparkly and light reflective, and you can build them up so they've got like a metallic reflect, or you can apply them sort of soft and diffused and they just sparkle. Like the way the light reflects off them and the shades twinkle is so pretty. I absolutely adore this palette. If she brought out a palette like this that was a bit more cool toned and a bit more warm toned in this, because I feel like this is pretty neutral. I mean, this guy's a little bit warmer, but yeah, I feel like it's a pretty neutral palette, and you could argue that these guys are a bit more cool toned because they've got a little bit of pinky undertones to them. But if she did like a warm and a cool version of this with the same depth, I'd buy both palettes. I wouldn't feel even remotely guilty about it. I love it. If I was keeping one palette out of all of these, hands down, it would be this. I wouldn't even need to think about it. Moving on to the I Need a Nude palette. Now, this was purchased for me by Madeline for my birthday. And look, I don't know why she calls this I Need a Nude palette. I feel like this should be called I Need a Cool palette. Or did she already do that? Or has she done that recently? I don't know. Anyway, I feel like this palette pulls quite cool. I am going to... Oh, I feel like I want to swatch the whole thing, but I'm not going to swatch the whole thing. We're just going to swatch until I run out of space, and I'm just going to swatch them randomly. So I quite like the mattes in this palette. Again, you can see that they all sort of fit into that mid-tony color for me. The darkest one is this one here, and again, I don't gravitate towards it very much. It's a bit too dark for me. There are some very beautiful sparkly shades in here. So these three, we've got Delilah, Sheen, and Mia. They are kind of similar to the ones in the Glam face palette with the the formula. They're kind of like firmly pressed, sparkly, like they come off quite thin and sheer on the eye. I really like them. And this one here is Muse, which is a beautiful, it's a bit more metallic. I'd say, like, if we look at the Glam face palette and what's going on in here, I need another hand to like point you to the types of shades. But this shade here, Sheen and Mia, they're kind of similar in formula to these guys, whereas this one, Muse, is a bit thicker. It almost has a cream to powder feel to it, but it's not a cream. It's just like the texture of it is a bit, I don't know how to describe it, thicker. But the way it comes off on the skin is similar to how the ones in the Glam face palette, how they come off. They can look quite metallic, or you can sort of, you know, shear it out and dust it on and it becomes a bit more like sparkly. So I really, really, really like those in this palette. Where I think the palette becomes totally redundant, and I just don't even know, like, I'm not even going to pretend to understand why she put so many of these shades in here. It's like these kind of like nudie, I don't know, they're just cool tone taupes in different like color depths, to be perfectly honest. So we've got Ella, Travertine, and this one is Filigree. Filigree is too dark. I don't like it. I just kind of ugly to me. But like if we look at Delilah and then these 3 shades here, I'm like, why? Why would you even bother? It's so same. And it really becomes super redundant on the eye, I personally think, because these 2 are going to give you a pretty similar effect on the eye. I think this one gives off more of, I mean, you can see it's more cool toned, more sort of silvery gray, and this one is a bit more brown. But even this, like, it just kind of, I don't know, I just think they look kind of muddy and bland on the eye. There's nothing exciting about them. Like, they're not super sparkly. They don't have a lot of like punch and reflect. They feel a little bit dull. So I'm not really a fan. And I mean, since we're doing it, let's just swatch the last shimmery shade in the palette, which is this one here. And again, I just feel like, I don't know, I would have liked to have seen more of this sort of formula going on in the palette rather than whatever this is. This is boring. This is even too boring for me, and I love that sort of shit. Now, even though there are a lot of shimmers in that palette that I just don't really reach for, I don't care for them, I don't think they're interesting, and I don't feel like they really deserve the real estate on my eyelids. The shades that I do like in there, along with the mattes, makes it a winner palette. I really like light, cool-toned nude shades, and this palette does do it quite well. I think it could have been done better, but you know, I guess with her putting in those shades, it gives, I guess, color depth, variation. I just think it's boring because so many of the colors are kind of similar. And my last one is the Natasha Denona Bronze Palette. So I bought this years ago when it came out, because, I mean, look at her. Gorgeous color selection, especially if you are someone who likes golds and like warm, sort of bronzy nude shades. Where this disappoints me is, and some of you are going to be like, that's exactly why I love it. And that's totally okay. And I totally, like, I get where you're coming from. I am probably a minority in this. They're too pigmented for me. The colors are exceptional. I really love them. So there's 5 mattes in the palette. Which one did I not swatch? Oh, Ridge. Okay, we'll come back to that. I'll swatch it. I mean, look at how they glide on. They're beautifully pigmented. Yeah, I think Ridge is the one that I didn't, is that right? Yeah. So they're the 5 matte shades in the palette. I really love the colors. I think they are beautiful. I also think that they are all different enough. None of them are like too dark for me. They offer different things. It's great. There are 2 quite dark shades in this palette. This one here, which is Deep Dive, is like a matte, or it's a like cream to powder formula. Oh, it's not cream to powder. She has like a sort of unique to her formula, which feels a bit creamy, and then, you know, goes on with more of a, I guess, satiny sheen, but it's, you know, pulls more matte. And then there is this shade as well, which is Rhodium. I don't use either of these shades. I would say that both of them have a formula that would be conducive to basically using them as a liner. So, you know, there's an option there. If you have this palette kicking around, you haven't used it for a while, maybe you're looking for some ideas, I think they would work really well for that. I feel like maybe I did do that when I first got this palette, but it's been years. I consider these, like, when I look at this palette, I just sort of block those shades out. They're up here in the corner. They blend into the background. I don't really see them, and that's fine for me. The shimmery shades, like the metallics that are in the palette, these are also really beautiful. I do, again, I feel like there is some redundancy here. I'm going to try and swatch them all for you, I think. This palette, like, this was my hardest palette because, I'll get to it. Let's just keep swatching. These three shades here, we've got Alloy. This one is Silk, I think. And that one is True Bronze. Is that correct? Let's just confirm that. Yep. So Alloy, Silk, and True Bronze. Bit redundant. Just feels a bit redundant. True Copper. I mean, if we compare it to Alloy, again, like they're pretty close. It's just, look, it's a bronze palette. It's called the bronze palette. So it's fair enough that there would be these sort of metallic goldy bronze shades in there. So, you know, I feel like I shouldn't really complain about that because that's the whole purpose of the palette and the theme. But I don't know. I don't even know how I would keep the theme of the palette but give them like a point of difference. Like maybe if they had a couple of them had like a multi-chrome shift or something, or like extra sparkle or a bit of a different formula. I don't know, okay? But they just feel very samey to me. And when they're going on the eye because, you know, for me, it's always a matte in the crease to create some depth and bring some like structure back to the eye after putting on primer and a full face of makeup. And then I like to put something sparkly over the lid to help my eyes pop and reflect light so they don't look tiny and beady. And when you're doing that with colors like this, it really just, they all kind of look the same, and I feel like I'm creating the same look over and over whenever I'm reaching for those shades. Now, if you don't have a similar eye structure to me and you're doing your eyeshadow in a different way, it's going to like impact you differently. You're not going to be running into the same issues that I'm running into. But because of my eye structure and having to do my makeup in a certain way for it to suit my face, these are the issues that I face with the palette. The last two shades in the palette, we've got Palladium, which is this one here. So that's more of like a taupe and is pretty unique to the palette, which is great. And then we have Bliss, which is this shade here. And this is, it's a duochrome. You can see it's like a sort of candy pink with a gold shift. Honestly, if they had just got like maybe one or two more like multi-chromes, or not multi-chromes, but like duochrome shades in there, I feel like it would have stood out so much more for me. Ultimately, I actually think this is like structurally the way it's put together, the color story and the selection of the shades, I actually think it's like pretty perfect. Besides the flaws that I've mentioned that really only affect me and probably people who do their makeup in the same way as me, despite all of that, I think it's pretty perfect. Where I struggle with it is the pigmentation. It's so pigmented, and as I get older, I find that sometimes less is more, or softer is more. If I draw too much attention to my eye area, especially if I'm like out in public, you can see all of the fine lines that are going on under my eyes, and like that's fine. Like I have them, it is what it is. It's just a part of aging, but I'm also trying to optimize my makeup to suit who I am at nearly 40 years old. So that's why this was my hardest palette to decide whether I keep it or not. And I have to admit, I'm not ready to get rid of it. I didn't use it as much as the other palettes, testing out, like I didn't test out all of the shades in this one. And I also didn't love every look that I created with this palette. Look at how pigmented these are. It's crazy. And I have to give her props for it. Like these are intense. So I didn't have a perfect time with this palette, and it's certainly not my favorite palette that I own from Natasha Denona. However, there are shades in there that I feel are just a little bit too nice to get rid of just yet. If Natasha Denona released a palette that was similar to the bronze palette, but had a formula that was similar to the I Need a Nude palette or the Glam Face palette, where the eyeshadows are a little bit, I guess, not as pigmented, not as rich, I would probably buy it. I'm not gonna lie, because I love the color story that she's got going on here. I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's well put together. It's just too pigmented for me. But also I think she still makes the bronze palette. I think if you really like warm toned, like bronzy eyeshadows with heaps of pigmentation, that's a palette you should check out. I remember when I purchased it and I did my review, I called it like a clubbing nude palette, because the pigmentation of these, like, you can see it in the dark. They are intense. I also think that this palette would potentially be nice for people of color. I haven't tested it out. I haven't done anyone's makeup in many years, so I don't know if it would really translate in the way that I think it would. But based on the pigmentation, I feel like there could be some good results from it. If you do have deeper skin and you've used this, I would love to know your thoughts on that theory of mine, whether, you know, I'm correct or completely wrong. But yeah, the bronze palette, it's a hard one for me, and I don't see it staying in my stash forever. But for now, I've got to keep it because I'm not quite done with her. So that's Natasha Denona done and dusted. I now need to move into the rest of my N palettes, N brands. I have a lot, like a lot. So I had 5 from Natasha Denona. I've got 6 from Nabla, and I'm pretty sure I've got 5 from NARS. And I also found a Lethal Cosmetics palette that I missed when I was doing K, L, and M. So I've decided I'm going to focus on Nabla first, and then I'll move on to NARS and do that little Lethal palette. The reason why I chose Nabla is because I am up in the air about a lot of these palettes, and look, I feel like a formula is going to make it or break it for me on a lot of these, because like I mentioned, I'm going for those sort of softer eyeshadows similar to what I'm wearing today. The color is there, the definition is there, and from what I remember, Nabla can be quite intense with their pigmentation. However, what I'm wearing today is actually from one of the Nabla palettes. It's this one, the Dreamy palette. So is that right? Yes, that's right. So there she is. That's what I'm wearing today. So I'm kind of hopeful that there's going to be some stuff here that I kind of fall in love with. And there might be stuff that I just can't get along with, and I want to pass on. But I am kind of excited to have a play with Nabla, because it's been a very long time since I've dipped into these, and I have 2 of their gorgeous glitter palettes, which, hell yeah, you know I'm going to use them. So just quickly, I have the Side by Side Nude palette here. Give you a little glimpse into what they look like. So that's that one. Oh my god, they're falling out of my lap. I have the Cutie palette in Platinum. This is the best shade ever. So maybe I'll be keeping that for one single shade. Then I have the Dreamy 2, which is this one, and the one I'm wearing today is the Dreamy palette. There she is. So I'll be back as soon as I can with another update on Nabla, and then we'll move into NARS. NARS I'm particularly excited about. I fucking love NARS. Love, love, love their eyeshadow palettes. Quick numbers update before I go. I have tested a total of 57 palettes so far, and I've decluttered 20, which is not so bad. I'm kind of okay with that. I want to say a massive thank you to my channel members and to all of you for joining me today. Let me know what you thought of anything I said down in the comment section. I talked about that bronze palette for a really long time, probably because I'm still processing how I feel about it. The others were just so easy. It was kind of a no-brainer for me, but yeah, that bronze palette, that one, ugh, it's hard. It's hard because I know I barely use it, but just can't let it go yet. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye.